Hi there, I'm Zach, and today we're going to be taking a look at a 5-in-1 paint tool. Stay tuned to find out why you need one, or maybe why you don't. On this channel, our goal is to bring you the best tools and techniques needed to maintain and repair a house. Let's dig in. Now, if you're anything like me, when you hear the word paint, you just want to turn and run. It's not the most fun job in the world. But this 5-in-1 paint tool is good for far more than just painting. First of all, anytime I go into a house or a new job and I need to explore what the workload, what the scope of work might be, I always take this, a flashlight and a tape measure along with me. And the main thing this is good for is if maybe there's peeling paint, you can find out how loose that is. Maybe there's loose caulk, you can figure out how loose that is. Maybe there's woodwork that you can't tell if it's rotten, if the framing is rotten, how much might be there, and you don't want to just go sticking your hand back in there. You can really poke and prod and chip and pry with one of these tools and find out how severe the damage might be. While exploration is a big part of what I use this for, demolition is also a big part of it. It's got a nice thin blade on it, so one of the things I end up using it for is taking trim off. Say I have some trim, whether it be around a window or maybe a baseboard that I want to preserve, I can kind of weasel this in there and pry that back just enough to get a flat bar in and widen that gap even more. Another thing these are good for is removing great stuff foam. So if I'm in a house and say there's a hole in the foundation that's been, there's a line going through it, it's been filled in with great stuff, I'll usually use this in conjunction with a utility knife to really get in there and scrape and just chew some of that away. It's not pretty and it doesn't do it cleanly, but it gets the job done. The blade on these scrapers are not at all flexible like a putty knife. They're very stiff and rigid and really good for pulling and prying on stuff. The blade does run the whole length of the handle and goes back to a hardened plastic tail cap. Some of these caps are even metal, and you can really beat on them pretty hard with a hammer to get under whatever you need to pry away. The blade width on this particular scraper is about 2¼ inches. They also make a larger version, which is about 3½ or 4 inches, somewhere in there. I find the smaller scrapers to be handier. They fit in my tool bag more easily or in my pocket, and really when I go to use one of these, I don't need to scrape a big area, and I want to be able to get all of the energy, all the leverage from my hand to a small concentrated area of trim or paint or plywood, whatever it is I'm prying on. I really consider this to be a sacrificial tool that I can abuse pretty hard. Now I've got a bag full of tools here that I could use, one of them being a big flat blade screwdriver. It's commonly pressed into use for demolition, things of that nature, but I really don't want to tear up my good screwdrivers, so I can abuse this thing pretty hard and just plan on replacing it every few years and not tear up my really good tools. As I said at the beginning of the video, I try to avoid painting whenever I can, but whenever I do get into a painting job, I usually keep one of these around. There are a few uses that they're just too handy not to have. One is scraping. If you're coming up to a corner and you need to make sure all the caulk is out of a joint or that all the loose paint is off, it's really handy to be able to pull this out of your back pocket and make sure the area is fully prepped, just kind of on a last minute notice. And also when you go to clean up, this kind of half moon shaped in here is really great for getting all the paint out of a roller. You just take it and run along the length of that roller, and it is amazing how much extra paint that'll really squeeze out of there. The other thing is this little hook right in here is really good for getting the lid of a paint can open if you don't have a regular paint can opener handy. The first one of these scrapers that I bought, I think it was the first big remodel job that I was working on, and I was walking through Lowe's or Home Depot getting some other supplies, and I saw this thing on an end rack, on a display rack, and thought, man, I don't know what I'd ever use it for. I'm not much of a painter, but looks like it could be handy. So I bought it, and I haven't been without it ever since. So for the price and the versatility, it's one of those tools you almost can't afford to not have. Go ahead and get yourself one. That's all for today. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about future videos just like this one. And join us next time when we'll bring you more tools and techniques to get the job done.